Alright, so in honor of 4th of July, I decided to do a little cookout. I'm going to be making some chicken quarters, chicken leg quarters, and some fajita. This tutorial will show you how to do that quick and easy, so stay tuned. I've had this fire going on for about 30 minutes. I did use some firewood to start it off, only because it gives me a good little taste of mesquite. After the firewood went off, I went ahead and I put in some charcoal on top of that, and I'm just waiting for the charcoal to get nice and hot so that we can do the next step. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to spread out. I know I still need some here in the middle, but if you notice here on the edges, it's nice and hot, and on this edge, nice and hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spread the welt out a little bit. This will start to allow the heat to start spreading out evenly, and that way we can start the cook. So first things first, kind of want to break this apart, kind of move it around if you can. I just got a stick, you know, that will allow me to do this. You want to try to stoke the fire a little bit, move it around. Spread some of those hot coals or hot charcoal briquettes to places where there isn't any. Some of the ones that are not lit, put them on top of that. Alright, so I kind of like spread out the briquettes. I got some hot ones, some not hot ones on there. We have them all spread out. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and put your grill on. Alright, so even though I'm not technically ready to go ahead and put on my meat on my grill, what I did is I actually spread out the briquettes for two reasons. One, so the heat can start to spread out evenly, but two, I wanted to put the grill on and leave it about 10 minutes. This will serve as kind of like a cleaner for your grill, and also as a kind of like adds fuel to the fire, because if you notice, there's a lot of little good stuff that was left over from the previous cook. So when that starts to heat up, it's kind of like the fat that was left over. It'll start to drip down, and then what that'll do is that'll actually aid in getting the fire going faster. But you want to leave it about 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, so that the grill can heat up, and then we'll go ahead and take it to clean it. So while we wait for the fire to get a little bit hotter, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about a health concern or a health issue. I've started hearing stories about the wire brushes that are used to clean the grills. Some of these wire brushes have bristles, and these little bristles sometimes they come off, and apparently some people have been eating these bristles and getting very sick. So I automatically, when I heard those stories, of course, I threw mine away. I would normally use, if you want to go all natural, just cut an onion in half. It gives it a real good smell to the grill to begin with, and it also cleans it. But if you don't have an onion with you and you want to still use some type of wire type of thing to clean your grill, I found this. All right, so this is still a wire brush to clean your grill, but if you notice, it's like in circles, and there's no bristles sticking out. So this works as good as the ones that have the wire bristles, and this might be a safe alternative so that you don't get any of the people that are eating your food sick. So that was just a little tip on what you can use. Either use something like this, or get yourself an onion, cut it in half, and once it's really hot, you can clean that off. All right. So typically what I do is, once it's been here for about 5 minutes, I like to get the fire going a little bit more. So what I do is I work from back to front. You don't want to work from front to back, because if your grill is really hot, you're going to start to agitate your heat here. By the time you get over here, you're going to be burning your hands or your arms. So you want to go ahead and kind of give it a little bit of a brush back to front, trying to knock off some of the old food that's there. and you'll notice that sometimes your grill will actually flare up because you're releasing some of the grease that's been hanging on to your grill. All right, then I turn it around to the other side, and if you notice, I don't know if you can tell, but there's some extra smoke already coming out because of the extra grease that's being added to the fire. Alright, so that's kind of how you want to clean your grill. You want to give it a couple of minutes, let it heat up a little bit, and then agitate it. So at this point, my grill is nice and hot. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's sizzling. I already put in my chicken, and the next thing I like to do is go ahead and season it. You don't have to put too much of this. The last time I made the mistake of putting, I wanted to over season it. So what ended up happening is it became like a hard shell of seasoning that wasn't too aesthetic or pleasing to the eye. So just give it enough. Start from the back again because of the heat. Just give it enough to give it some color. You want to spread it around. And any seasoning, I mean, there's some that are specific for chicken. Any seasoning pretty much will work. It just depends on what flavor you want the chicken to come out as. If you want it spicy, get a spicier seasoning. If you want a mild seasoning, or if you just want salt and pepper. Alright, but that should be more than enough right there. The way it's seasoned, you don't want to I know you want to feel like you want to cover it all, but you don't want to over season it because then it'll give you that hard, crusty, nasty looking skin. Alright, so you have your fire going, you have your chicken on the grill. I highly recommend that if your grill doesn't have one, to go ahead and install one of these temperature gauges, because this is going to be your best friend, especially for a long cook that doesn't necessarily ask for too much movement. All right, what is recommended here is that you put the chicken on and you don't move it. You leave it there the way it is. The chicken's gonna cook on the same side. Don't try to flip it every 10 or 15 minutes. That's one of the mistakes that a lot of people do. You leave it for about an hour and a half, more or less, and you want to hover the temperature at about 300 degrees. A little bit hotter if you want to get it out a little bit faster, but around 300 degrees is a good temperature to hover it at. But again, you just don't touch it. And if you notice, my temperature gauge is going up slowly because the heat is starting to build up. But that's it. Don't touch the chicken after you put it in, and leave it as is. Time it for about an hour 15 minutes, and then I'll take you to the next step. Okay, so it's been about an hour to an hour 15 minutes. I know I said about an hour and a half will get you your chicken done. Notice how I haven't changed it. You have a nice little caramelization going on the top. But what I like to do at this point is to be able to make a little bit of room is I like to maybe pull out some of the chicken that's already done. So for the internal temp of chicken, in order for it to be considered well done or cooked, you have to hit at least 165. So what I did is I ended up purchasing one of these meat thermometers, and all I do is you try to stick it into the center part of the chicken, kind of where the bone is, because that's going to be the area where it's going to, if it's not going to be cooked, it's going to be there. And notice how it's already at 200. So that tells me that this piece of chicken is done. So let me close this real quick because you see the fire coming up. Let me close this. That's another thing. Whenever you have a flame out or a flare out of your flames, just go ahead and close it. Don't panic. Don't try to throw water on it or anything. Just close it off. Let it die down a little bit, and then you can open it back up. All right. So that's essentially what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be checking for doneness. When they are done, what I like to do is actually I like to put these. I like to put my chicken inside a cooler. All right. This is a real good technique because not only will it keep it warm, but you don't have to add additional heat to it, drying it out. All right. So again, because the temperature is going so high, I'm going to have to be opening and closing this checking for temperature and then closing it back up. You can start removing some of the chicken pieces that are already over 165. I usually try to hit at least 180 just to be safe. Once you hit 180, pull it out, and you can start making room for the other cuts of meat if you have other meats that you're going to cook during your cookout. But for now, go ahead and continue checking your chicken, making sure that it's at least 165, but I would usually aim for 180, and try to stab that meat probe right towards the center bone of the chicken, because that's where, if it's not going to be cooked, it's going to be uncooked in that area. All right, and we'll continue with the fajitas in a little bit. So I went ahead and pulled out the majority of the chicken. Kind of looks like this. You have it in the cooler, you open it up. Okay, so the chicken is nice and warm. It's keeping warm. One of the reasons you want to start with the chicken is because it takes the longest, and two, while you're cooking the rest of your meats, you can go ahead and let it stay nice and warm in there. All right, so highly recommend getting a meat thermometer or a meat probe, because there was some pieces of chicken that looked like they were ready and they weren't, and then there was some pieces of chicken that looked like they weren't ready and they were. Case in point, I got 3 nice juicy looking pieces of chicken, but they're not ready. They're hitting the 155s, 160s, so better be safe than sorry. I'll let them cook a little bit longer. So the next thing we wanted to go ahead and hit is we're going to go ahead and cook some sausage. And when I say cook, I mean the term loosely, because it's just warming it up. And then we have some fajitas, or also known as beef skirt. Now these are prepared locally here by our local meat market. And then we have like 2 or 3 pieces of costillas, or loaded ribs. Okay, so I'm going to throw these on the grill, and I'm going to give you a little bit of some pointers on how to cook these. Okay, so what you got here is you have beef skirt or fajitas preparadas, which means they're prepared, very thinly sliced. These, the method for this one is totally the opposite of the chicken. Chicken is, hey, close the lid, don't touch it, leave it for about an hour and a half, you're good to go. These have to be highest heat possible, and you got to continuously turn them. That way that traps in that flavor, and it doesn't, the flavors don't escape from the top. I don't know if you can see it's already turning into a cooked thing. That's how thin these are. But the recommendation on beef skirt is that you go ahead and flip them on high heat as much as possible every 2 or 3 minutes. Because these are thinly cut or thinly sliced, these will not take more than about 5, no more than 10 minutes to cook. So you just got to keep an eye on that. Other than that, we do have our loaded ribs over here cooking. These, you want to leave them there a little bit more. It's not, those are not as they don't seem to dry out as much as these if you leave them too much on one side. So just keep an eye on your loaded ribs, and then keep an eye on your fajitas, and you should be good to go. Look at how thin that you can almost see through it. All right, so just keep on turning them until you get the desired either wellness or doneness, or like my wife likes them, nice and toasty. All right, so just keep on doing this, keep an eye on them, and you can put them out. So my stubborn piece of chicken is still over there, not cooked, not to my satisfaction. So I've already done my fajitas, I've done my ribs, they're in there, they're simmering. The last thing I wanted to show you guys is the sausage, or the links. So these are pretty much, like I said before, you're kind of just warming them up more than anything. You just have to be very careful with these. They're very greasy, which means that it can you can get your fire can catch on because of this. So just be very careful. Flip these over. Once you see them nice and tan and ready to go, you can take them out, slice them up, and there you go. All right, hope you enjoyed this video on chicken, ribs, sausage, and fajita, beef skirt. If you like this video, I have some other videos that show you how to smoke brisket, how to smoke turkeys, pretty much anything that you can smoke. I have it there on my videos on my channel. So go ahead and subscribe. That'll help me out a lot. And go check out my other videos. Leave questions or comments on the bottom, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for watching.